Welcome to the Ultra Ascent Podcast. Your hosts, Alex Proctor and Mark Dowdle, are two aspiring professional runners with the goal to take you on a journey of making that dream a reality. You'll be given an inside look to what life is like as an unsponsored athlete and all the trials and tribulations that it entails. Along the way, they'll share how they train, what races and challenges are currently on their calendar, and how they aim to land support from brands. Alex intends to dominate in the professional trail running sector, taking souls and finishing on top the podium at the most premier trail races around the world, while Mark seeks to find new ways to discover the unknown and self-made, not yet accomplished ultra distance challenges. Let's get into the show.
Digits, right? Total?
I'm actually checking that right
I
now.
think we're in double digits. This might be episode 10. But your hosts, Alex Proctor and Mark Duddle, are here to give you the rundown on our races. Mine upcoming this weekend and Dowdle's previously just happened here. So we'll get you the rundown on what occurred there, the ups and downs, and what he learned from it. So
Yeah,
I think
let's
we
get
should start there.
let's get right into it. So, I just completed one of the toughest 50 ultra marathons in the world, the Arrowhead 135. It was by far not even close, not even in the same category, the hardest race I've ever done, and I'm so grateful for it. Um, it's been a little over a week and a half since I completed it, and I've had a lot of time to reflect and to talk to people and just get myself back together from that experience. And one of the main reasons why I think it was so difficult outside of the nature of the actual event itself is because I went into this race, and you'll probably listen to it in the last podcast. But I talked about it almost with too much confidence, like almost where I had allowed these previous races, previous events to build up my confidence, which I think is great. I think that's what allows me to sign up for these hard races. But that confidence allowed and leaked into like a certain level of arrogance where I didn't fully respect the nature of the challenge. And because of that, like I was sitting down in the pre-race meetings on Sunday night. We're all gathered in the auditorium, and they're going over rules and just other things. And he'd put up past records, and I was looking at that course record for the foot division. And in my mind, I was like, "All right, if I feel good, I'm gonna try and like I'm just gonna remember that number." And it's like, dude, this is your first time racing this really hard challenge, and you're sitting the night before thinking about the course record. And so that was my mindset going into it. And by mile 20, I was like, holy smokes, dude. This is way more difficult than I had thought going into it. I think silly enough, like stupidly, I didn't really put together that I'd be running on snow for 135 miles. And you think that's like an obvious thing, but I didn't train that way. So it wasn't like built into my mindset. Um, and so I think that was a big reason why this challenge was so difficult, was because I came into it with so much confidence that I didn't respect the challenge for what it actually was.
Yeah, and I think it would have been a much easier challenge if you got the temperatures you were kind of expecting, colder temperatures,
Yeah.
because with the snow factor and it being sort of warm for up there, around 30 degrees at points, it seemed like the snow was kind of allowing your ankles to move in ways that you weren't prepared for, and
Yep.
like not allowing you to get into rhythm. I saw that you had talked about that on your Instagram. It looked like the previous or the current record holder actually commented on one of your posts, and it looked like he wanted to get back at it
Who?
with you. I think he was is it Jake Heggie or
Yeah, did
Heggie?
he comment on my post?
Yeah, he said that he's looking to do it in the next few years, and he wants to, like, if you're up for it, to like try to go for it with you.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even
Yeah,
see that.
which is sweet. Yeah, and he's the current record holder for that course. I believe he's got a pretty stout time as well on the Superior 100. I'm not sure if it's a record, but it's top 3, top 5 times ever on the Superior 100. and he's holding it down for a lot of the trail runners in the Minnesota, Wisconsin area. He's a Midwestern legend. I think he's living now in eastern Minnesota, maybe Wisconsin area. But he's going to be a wealth of knowledge for you if you want to continue down this Arrowhead path. I know you had talked about before the race, possibly wanting to come back, and it seemed like you were pretty adamant about coming back before the race. Has that changed at all for you? Have you what's going on in your head now that you've done it?
So I called Lucy. Shout out to Lucy because honestly, I could say without a doubt, if she wasn't there, um, and wasn't on the other end of the phone when I called at mile 60 to quit, I would have totally gave in and quit. So I called her at mile 60. It was about 10 o'clock at night. I said, I don't think I can do this. This sucks. I'm hating every moment. I'm not having fun. I just want this to be over. And all I kept thinking about the 20 miles that led up to that phone call was, I don't have to do this. Like, I don't have to be out here. I'm suffering. I've hated the experience so far. All I want to do is take a warm shower, drink a cold beer, and lay in bed with Lucy to watch a movie. Like, that's it. And I couldn't get that comfort out of my head. And I called her just hoping that she would be like, "All right, come home. Like, we'll figure something out." But her first thing was like, "No, you can't. You can't quit. Like, you have come this far. This is why you showed up." And she just offered me a different voice in my head that I couldn't find within myself. That
Mm-hmm.
was like a word of encouragement or different perspective, and that shifted my focus onto getting back on track. What she also said to me, which she knows me very well, is I was wearing shorts because it was 30 degrees. Within the first mile, I'd stripped off all my layers. And it goes back to like the two keys were keep your liquids liquid and the temperature game is the game. I knew going at 4 miles an hour, and pulling that like 50-pound sled that I was going to stay warm. So I was running in shorts probably 70% of the race. And at that first aid station, there was a set of runners and a volunteer that were in a group text that Lucy heard when I left, that were making fun of me for wearing shorts and making fun of the fact that I was posting during the race. And she said that there are people here that are talking ish about you, and you need to prove them wrong. And that just set me off. I was like, let's go.
That's
I've
good.
I even after that point, I still got super low. I never got back to the point of actually making a decision to quit, but it got super low at times and many more times throughout that race. And I kept vowing to Lucy and to Caius, Kellen, and Raymond. I said, I'm never coming back to this hellhole again. I don't know why people sign up for it again. I was actually pissed at the people that had talked to me about the run who had done it a number of times. I was so pissed that they were so uh, encouraged by their first run that they would do it again. I was vowing I'm never coming back here again. Like, finish this race so you never have to come back here again. And then the next morning I woke up and the first thought I had was, okay, maybe we could do that again. Maybe we could do that again. So I'm definitely on the path now of like I do want to do it again. I'm still in that mindset where, you know, after it took me a few days to recover physically, it took me about a week to emotionally recover. And I think at the back end of that emotional recovery, there was a recognition and appreciation that I still, through as much hatred as I had during the suffering, I still finished fourth and within shot. I finished 3 hours behind first place, which is still a lot of time, but still within reach of like, okay, if I put some things together and I strategize better. I know what to expect now. I know what sections I can run better, and how I can handle certain situations and how I can better sleep and just overall have a better strategy. I really do think I can come out and win that race. And so just knowing those and taking a step back and being like, okay, that sucked, but I'm proud of the outcome and I'm proud of what I accomplished out there. And it's still with all of those things is like, dude, I finished fourth. 5 minutes behind third place, 40 minutes, 50 minutes behind second place, and 3 hours behind first place. Like that's pretty good. That's pretty impressive, all things considered. So I would love to go back there and just see what I'm capable of, because that was only the beginning.
Yeah, yeah. Well, props to you for finishing the thing and with finishing with such a good time and good place after all you're going through. I'm sure that most of your competitors are going through the same thing, so it
Yeah.
felt like a um, collective goal that you guys are shooting for. Um, on that point, what was the extent of your interaction with your competitors? Did you talk to anybody at all in the course, or was it kind of like a solo mission out there?
Uh, 80% of it was solo. There
Okay.
were few interactions with people, a lot of interaction with bikers, because
Mm.
because it was warm, the snow was mushy and hard to run on,
How,
which made
how
it,
did the bikers get
dude,
through there?
I looked at them, and that was one positive of like their suffering made me go like, I'm so happy I'm not biking this race.
That might be slower, honestly, than running through that. Like I feel like trying to grind through that snow and on a bike would
And
be so
going uphill,
frustrating.
they were walking their bikes uphill, and the middle section of the course was just up and down, up and down. Up. I'm like, why do you? That sucks. That
Was
sucks.
the course harder or easier than you expected? I guess just from a standpoint like with vert and ups and downs.
More
I know that the
difficult.
snow is
Yeah,
hard, but
yeah.
okay.
More. It was much more. I mean, a lot of people said it's hilly. It's about. I think my Strava at Garmin tracked 7,133 feet of elevation gain. So
That's pretty good.
pretty decent for like a Minnesota race. And then when you consider it's snowy, and then you consider you're pulling a sled, and some of those uphills were super steep, so you're just like you're moving one like long grinded out ISO step at a time.
Yeah.
And the downhills
Was
were not, it's not like that was fun either, because you could run it down, but then your sled would outrun you and it would go sideways. And I got to,
can you ride your sled down?
you did, and like I could, and about 50% of the time I would not be able to control it, and so I'd end up in a snowbank, or one time I ended up in bushes, and I just was so pissed about that. So it wasn't like the downhills were much fun anyway.
Yeah, I think it'd be funny if in that race, you said it's illegal to ride your sled or no?
It is
Or is
legal. It is legal.
it? If you could like perfect like surfing on the sled, like down the
Yeah.
downhills, that would be sweet. Actually, that'd be a fun
I did
aspect of the
think
race.
about that, but I was like, no, that's
Go for it.
just not good.
On the nutrition side and sleep side, do you think that you kind of had things covered, or is there anything that you would have changed if you were to do it again? It looked like you brought a tub of butter for your spare. I thought that was pretty clever to do
Yeah.
that for your emergency stash.
I was thinking about bringing like beef jerky or something, because I have started eating meat again, which is kind of a big update. But I wasn't planning on eating meat for this race, and I was like, I need something that is super calorie dense, because you need 3,000 calories, and something that I know I'm not gonna eat. And meat was one of those, but I couldn't find something that was like small enough and compact enough to fit in my stuff. And so I brought that 4 pack of butter that was 3,200 calories. As far as like, I think the overall strategy going into the race was good. I would make slight adjustments on, I wouldn't go back to the spaghetti, because I didn't eat much any of that. The burritos were
Cold
good.
spaghetti.
The cold spaghetti, it's not like I would eat cold spaghetti. I did that on my runs this summer. It was just when you're, and it's cold, and like even in like 20-degree weather, it's not fun to whip out your hands and start like eating with a fork. Like it's not it's not the best strategy. So I think I'd bring a few less burritos, but still bring those, because I ate 5 or 6 of those in the first 20 to 30 miles. And then after that first aid station, I really went to just like the protein balls that I made, and the cut up Snickers and cut up protein bars. And so I try and transition more to like snack type foods like that I could just eat, keep in my backpack and snack on. The sleep, God, okay, so The second aid station was where people get the most sleep. It's Mel George's. It's a cabin at mile 72 and a half. And there are 4 beds upstairs. They also have a spillover cabin that's just meant for sleeping. So they have more beds over there. And people will sleep for anywhere from 1 to even 5 hours. Like people will spend time sleeping there. The guy that beat me by one place slept there for 2 hours. I ended up sleeping there for one. And I think I would have, if I were to do it differently, I would have spent 2 hours sleeping there because I slept there an hour and then I went out and this was 3 in the morning at this point, and it started snowing and sleeting sideways. And after 15 miles of that, I just got exhausted. So I had to pull over and sleep in my sleeping bag in one of those trailside shelters. And that took, I slept there for 30 minutes, but like getting things ready and taking them back down and putting them away took another 15 or 20 minutes. So um, I think I
This
would
is
have
like a
slept.
survival race. I love it. I just
Yeah.
love that. Like, were you expecting there to be a shelter on the side, or is that kind of just an organic thing where like, oh, this feels right now. I'm gonna set up my own little aid station and sleep kind
I
of thing.
well, I was looking for one, and then a biker passed me, and I was like, "Dude, is there any shelter? Like, do you know of any shelter coming up?" And he was like, "Oh, let me check," because he had some map on his phone, and he said there's one coming up in 3 miles,
Hmm.
and it came up in 5 miles, which I was pissed about because I was like, "All right, I missed that." But there was a unsupported biker that slept there the night before, and he was making water out of snow while I slept. So I got to hang out and chat with him for a while. Um, but yeah, there's a handful of shelters along the way. So, but I was ready. I was looking for it. I was looking for it.
On that, on stopping in like the aid stations, I know you only had three. So how did you decide when it was right to stop for yourself? Because I assume you stopped more than the three times for aid and stuff.
Yeah.
Since this is kind of it's pseudo self-supported, like how did you decide like when you're gonna stop, get all your things out? Was it based off like when you felt hungry, or did you have that kind of built in your plan to like stop, 25 miles in or stop 30 miles in?
Yeah. I the first 25, 30 miles, or I guess up until that first aid station, I was trying to stay on the 4 miles an hour, eat every hour, kind of like the last person standing. After that, things kind of just fell apart. And there's only one other time where I actually just sat down and snacked for like 10 minutes. The sun was out, it felt great, and I just needed a moment to sit and breathe. Other than that, I was just trying to stack things in my pockets and eat as I went. It
Nice.
became difficult going into that second aid station and also into the last 25 miles because I finished in darkness. Those were my most hallucinating type moments, and it got so bad where I would run a mile. I would just lay down on the trail with my sled still attached to me. I would lay down. I'd close my eyes for a minute or two. I would have rapid dreams, and then I would wake up because I was either cold or I would like have like that like, oh shoot, I gotta get up and move. And I did that 2 separate times. I did that for 10 miles, and so I
So
just
you
do
didn't set
one.
an alarm or anything? You
No,
just
no. I,
oh
I
man, I would be nervous.
well, that's what woke me up. Where I was like, just like, okay, I gotta like, how long was? And I'd look and be like 3 minutes that I was out.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Did you get a chance to talk to any of your competitors after the race, like maybe those that finished right behind you or right before you, about like their experience and if anyone else had any like cool stories out there?
no,
Or was it kind of
no.
just like get back to to bed and like get out of there?
Yeah, it was pretty much that. I finished just before 11 p.m. They take you to the bottom of the Fortune Bay Casino in the basement where there's all the bikes and sleds.
They
They
tie you
make
up.
they tie you up. They make sure you have all of the gear that is required to start and finish a race, and then they take you up to like this conference room and third place
There's a slot
finisher.
machine, and you're
Yeah,
like,
dude, you're walking through slot machines. It's crazy. Um,
Uh,
but the conference room had 2 or 3 volunteers, and Paul, the guy that finished before me, was just sitting there like, I'm never doing this again. And I was like, I'm never doing this again either. Um,
and then you guys
and
both sign up.
we're both there next year. But no, I mean, there wasn't, we were both gassed, and just as soon as they gave me the medal or whatever, and the t-shirt and stuff, we just went back to the room. I took a shower and had a beer and passed out.
Nice. How was Lucy's experience? Because I know at that race you can't really have a crew. So how was it for her, like having to be up that whole time? Did she get to sleep at all? Was she kind of just like, watching your dot and trying to track along with you, or where
Yeah,
was she able to be?
a little bit of both. So she was at the first aid station, not at the second aid station. She was at the third aid station, and because you're not, so the rule, like, you can't get any outside support. And I had a question about this of like, isn't like talking on the phone with someone technically support? I mean, technically it is support, but the rules don't tell you that you can't do that. So
That's the
that
same thing for like FKTs. If you're going for them, it's still technically like unsupported if you make a phone call too for some
yeah,
reason,
yeah.
even
I mean,
against.
it is it. Honestly, that would be something to, like, you could separate the categories out by like completely solo endeavor, because the that phone call and the phone calls I had with her, and just the messages I went back and forth with people, and seeing messages from like you come, like, those all gave me support to continue moving. um so I'd see her at the aid stations, couldn't touch her, couldn't I could talk to her, but like, she tried to feel my socks and I pulled them away. I was like, no, I don't, no physical involvement in any way.
Okay.
So she showed up to the third aid station as well, just to be there. And then she was volunteering at the finish line from midnight to 6 a.m. on Tuesday. So she was doing some volunteering at the race herself. And then, yeah, she saw me a handful of times. That was not as fun of an experience for her compared to like Wausau, where you stay in one place. You're very much involved in the experience. I remember when I called her to quit. Um, or like, I called her later on. I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing this again. She was like, yeah, like, that means, we can sell your sled immediately after this. Like, she was so gung ho about never going back there. And I think after the race, as she, heard and listened and talked to me, and started to see my mindset shift into like, all right, we probably will do this again. You could tell she's probably, she was a little like, dang it, like,
Yeah.
I'll remember this the next time you say you're not going to do something, and I'll just give it a few days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, well, I'm
So
happy you guys got the experience up there, and it sounds like you didn't have any fun.
no, it
Based on
sucked,
what you've been saying, like
dude. It sucked.
you said it was zero fun, which is a funny, funny quote. Like I had no fun at all.
Yeah, yeah,
So
and
no ounce of it was like even like the first like 5 miles where you're like in that honeymoon stage of like, yeah, I'm doing this fine. Like the build up is finally no.
now, I'd say the reason that the first like 20 miles sucked so much was because I started in the back like I normally do for all races, and I quickly realized how difficult the race was going to be. And so, like, in my mind, I couldn't get out of the my headspace of like, I'm in 25th place right now, and I fear that I'm not going to be able to make that up. And so, like, I could not get out of like, I'm gonna, like, the race is being made or broken right now, and it just, like, I
No.
couldn't get that out of my head.
Yeah.
And that's when I texted Caius and Kellen, and I was just like, please tell me what place I'm in so I can get this out of my brain. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I mean, there's probably some moments that were less hellish than not, but yeah, I mean, ultimately the whole thing was not very fun. Um,
Yeah,
but
placing things hard though because you start to get like insecure about it. You're like, oh
yeah,
man, like is this like, am I in the wrong spot right now? But
Yeah,
as you know, you've done it now. There's so much time.
so much time.
Like the guy in first place was probably like fearing for his spot because he knows that there's so much time for people to come back. You know,
Yeah.
like when I was running the UTMB grindstone race, like first 10 miles, I was probably like in 45th place. You know,
Mm.
so it's like I was just comfortable being there because I knew that like there's so much time for me to like settle in and go. You know, and just like trust in your abilities.
And like I know you had texted me this of like stay patient, and
Yep.
I'm really good at finishing races. I've learned that about myself, and those last 25 miles, I was looking back on the when I left the final aid station compared to when the guy in third place left the aid station. It was about a 40 to 45 minute difference of time, and I was able to make up about 40 minutes of time in those last 25 miles. So much time. Um, Definitely like just some things that would have done differently. But yeah, all in all, it was a solid experience. And like before I wrap up here, this will be my closing note before we move on to what you got going on this weekend. Is like I'm sure people are probably wondering, like, you had such a horrible experience, and yet you're talking about wanting to do it again. Like, where does that come from? And I think what I love about Ultra and that I haven't fully experienced since the probably second Love Like Lori is like a really hard experience such as this is that I love, and I think I talked about this in our last episode, but like I love that idea of trying to figure out who I am or who I say I am or who I am compared to who I say I am or who I believe that I am. And there were times in those last 25 miles when I was just trying to be consistent with like a run walk strategy, and I kept repeating this in my head of like all I talk about on social media is consistency is the only thing that matters. It doesn't matter how you feel, it doesn't matter how motivated you are, it doesn't matter how tired you are, it just matters what you do. And in that moment, I wasn't perfect, but it was like uh no one will ever know what you actually do out here. All that will matter is like you will know at the end of the day what you did out here, what you went through, and spending 40 hours of like believing and then not believing and doubting and feeling like I hate this experience and just like all of those emotions. You're wrestling with that for 40 hours. And that is like you can't go to that place, that rawness every day. You can't go to it every day in training. You can't go to it every time you race. And I think having experiences like that is a place where I come out of that and I'm like, I know who I am based on what I've been through. And that is a big ultimate goal that I have in this is just to keep going back to that place so I don't have to like think or feel or believe a belief about myself. I just know who I am because of what I have done and what I consistently do. And that to me is
Mm,
more important than anything.
man.
So,
Well, I can say that you're a true inspiration to me and so many people out there, including Cam and Truett Haynes. I saw that they commented on your post, which is cool.
yeah, that was cool.
Truett just broke the world record for pull-ups in 24 hours, which was
That
pretty insane to
that
do.
man is unreal. And the fact that he was still going out to run like 10 miles a day, and so yeah, that'll be
You guys
he's
gotta
got
link up for a run sometime. He's out
I
here, I think,
know.
in Utah.
Yeah, he is out in Utah, and I sent him some. He had reached out to me to ask about last person standing advice if I had any advice for him because he's never done one. He's got that go one more coming up.
Oh
So I
yeah,
sent him over a one pager just on stuff that we've
one
done,
pager.
mindset stuff, and so I'm curious to see how he does in that. But and
Awesome.
anyway, that was Arrowhead. That's a wrap up for that. We'll
Yep.
see what happens next year. But you've got a race coming up that you've building for a couple months now. Talk to me about how you're feeling, mindset, emotional, physical. What are your thoughts going into this weekend?
Yeah. So This has been the race I've been training for since September, and Grindstone's ending in like September 20th. So it's been about October, November, December, January, about at least 4 months of training for this one. And it's one that I'm not necessarily motivated to race it by the course or um, just the race itself. I'm more motivated to race the competition that's there.
Mm.
As I've said before in previous podcasts, it's one of, if not the most competitive ultra marathon on U.S. soil, and that's just because it's a golden ticket race, like I've mentioned before. And that just means that if you get top three at this race, male or female, that you get an automatic entry to Western states. Um, so my goals have remained relatively the same since I started training and up until now. My fitness is starting to match up with those goals and it's becoming more realistic. I think they started out as some like almost fantasy, like a lot of goals do, where they almost seem too big, but you put in the work, you prepare from, and they start to become like, oh, like in your head, like this actually makes sense. Like I can do this. These times actually seem like they're doable now. I've put in the work to achieve them. And it's not like I'm just throwing it out there like I'm, um, you know, oblivious to it, to the fact that I wouldn't be ready. But with that being said, I think good goal for me and something that both my friend Adam and I are hoping to shoot for is like a top 20 finish at this race, which would be pretty good, pretty standout there. I know that doesn't sound good. 20, if I finish 20th, there's 19 people ahead of me, which doesn't seem like something to write home about. But with the competition here and all the guys that are very respectable racers, I think that would land me anywhere between 8 hours and 10 minutes and 8 hours and 30 minutes, which I think just roughly comes down to about 8:15 to 8:45 pace for 62.2 miles on trail with 6,200 feet, I think, of elevation. So about 1,000 feet of elevation on average per 10 miles. But with the caveat that the first 50K or 31 miles is net downhill. So a lot of guys
Mm.
go out fast, which you have to kind of just to keep up and run that, anywhere around 3.5 to 4 hours for a 50K, which is lightning quick. I'd say that's anywhere from like 6:30 pace to around like 7:15 pace for that first 50K, which is net downhill, which is nice. But the thing with this course is that even with it being net downhill in the first half, with most of the vert coming in the second half and that being harder, another factor is that in a lot of parts it's twisty and turny. It's not just like a straight bomber where you can just like
Mm.
run straight the entire time and not really have to worry about it. Like you are going in these a lot of twists and turns where you're moving your body and using different muscles to move like laterally. Um, and then that second half, man, is going to be tough. It's net uphill, rolling upwards basically. Um, and that's where we tend to see a lot of the fallout, especially in the past years, where people, could be leading the race in that first 50K and end up, in the 20s
Mm.
because they've let out everything they have. And my strategy is going to be more so take a conservative first half, probably be in the 30s, 40s for places, and then start to pick people off in the second half. Like I want to be up there in the groups, probably in the back of the second chase pack, but I don't want to burn my matches too much at the start. Mentally, feeling pretty good. These past 3-4 weeks of this taper have been pretty interesting. I've not done as much mileage as I have in previous tapers in the past for marathons, for my ultras, because I've been dealing with some shin splints, and I'm honestly not sure what the reasoning behind it is. I've been doing all the small things, warming up for my runs, eating a lot of protein, getting enough sleep every night, 8 hours plus, probably on average 9 nowadays. So not really sure what was going on there, but it's something I've been kind of fighting painfully. It's been painful to run for the past month or so, which has led this taper to be a bit less than I would have wanted it to be. I didn't want to, it's almost less of a taper and more of like straight down to a buzz cut from having hair.
Yeah,
So
that's new.
I yeah, got a buzz cut. Looks weird with my hat hair, but um, yeah. So I went from anywhere from 90-ish miles a week down to like 40, down to like 29, and now down to like 17 this week. So
Okay.
cutting a quite substantial amount of mileage off. But
How does that
on a
make your?
positive note,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, on a positive note, I've started to feel a lot more fresh.
Mm.
My leg's starting to heal. Now it only takes about half a mile to a mile for the leg pain to stop, and and so it's about 5 to 10 minutes for that leg pain to stop now in a run, and it's only getting better. It used to be like 2 to 3 miles, and then at one point it was like 6 or 7 miles before it actually felt good. Um, so I've just been fighting through that, been praying to God a lot about it, and just asking for some clarity on it and some you know give my mind some clarity on what I can do better. And I've been stretching a lot, doing a lot of calf raises, isos, red lighting, saunaing. I've been throwing the whole kitchen sink at it and just making sure that all bases are covered. And I've put a lot of preparation into this. This isn't my A goal for the year. I'd say UTMB is going to be that no matter what. This is something that I want to, start off the year hot. And I have a friend, Adam, like I had mentioned, that we're probably going to run a lot of this race together, hopefully. He seems like he's in pretty good shape too, training out in Colorado. And we were able to meet up for a workout in Minnesota, and it seemed like our fitness kind of matched up. So we kind of have a similar game plan, going off of Ferdinand Arelt's splits from last year. He finished 12th and ran a very smart race. So,
Well, that's what I was gonna
um,
ask. Like, do you have specific splits and time goals that you have going into it that's going to keep you calm and focused that won't get swept up in this swell?
yeah, yeah, I have his splits down right now, and then kind of a range. So, um, I guess at about halfway, I want to go through halfway at about 4 hours, maybe a little less than 4 hours, maybe a little more, give or take, and PR my 50K time. I haven't really ran a fast 50K yet, so that'd be cool. So do a 50K in about 4 hours would be sweet, and then the next half, get as close to negative splitting as I can. I know it's pretty impossible at this race to do so, just because the first half is so much easier than the second half. But to run a pretty close to a negative split the second half as close as I can, and run about 4:10, 4:20 for the second half, maybe even 4:30. And then I have those splits on a spreadsheet too, just kind of written down. And all goes well, we're sitting hopefully pretty in top 20. I know that this year it's especially competitive. I don't know what's in the water, but I think people are starting to get the ultra bug going, and all
Mm.
these fast dudes coming out of college are raring to go and getting that experience down and bring it to the table. So I'm excited to throw down with some absolute dogs, some veterans, some pros, and then some challengers as well that are wanting to get after it. Gonna be a good
It
time.
is how much of that is motivating you or putting in uncertainty? One or I mean, it could be one or the other or both when you see all of those athletes going in there.
Oh, I'm gonna be super excited about it because I'm a huge fan of the sport. So like, it's almost like
Yeah.
a good it's like a fanboy moment for me. Where like I'm around guys that I've looked up to, I've watched videos about, I've followed them for a while. It's almost like a parasocial relationship where like I feel like I almost have like a relationship with them, but they
Yeah.
don't know me at all.
Yeah.
Which is funny. But yeah, I'm just excited to race with some athletes that are putting in, as much work as I am, if not more, um, and going to the well with them. I think that'll be really fun. Um, got sent a few things from Hydro Pack. They sent me a few handheld water bottles. Core Power sent me some protein shakes for
Yeah, I wanted to
recovery.
bring that up. What's that been like? What's that? Is there a deeper story behind that, or
Mm,
did they reach out? You reach out to them, or
Hydro Pack was a connection I made at TRE.
yep.
So I met a few people there. most specifically a guy named John, also known as Jack. You know, Johns go by Jack too. So met him. He was kind of friends with this guy named Reed Burrows who runs for Merrill, and I'd been talking to Merrill a bit, a while back, and he's an athlete for them, so kind of had a connection there. And he said he'd hook me up with some gear, and I just hit him up, a few weeks ago, and he sent me a few bottles, which are gonna be clutch. I think the most used bottles at Black Canyon are the handheld ones where you can just race with them and just have them on the go. And then Core Power is a random one. That was my stepdad. He randomly knows a guy at Core Power, and my stepdad told him I had other endorsers and or like sponsors, and the guy wanted to hook me up with he sent 4 cases of
sick.
Core Power, which has been nice. I've been having 2 a day, one in the morning, one at night, and it's been helping my leg feel better, I think, along with everything else like rolling out with the lacrosse ball and all that other jazz. But
What's the game plan with Natalie and aid stations?
Oh yeah. So I'm gonna have her be ready at there's I think 3 or 4. Let me see. That she can be at. She can be at 1, 2, 3. I guess the finish. So 3 on course, and then the finish 19, 32, and 50. Um, that there's a big gap between that 32 and 50. The times we can't see each other. So I'm gonna have her ready at 32 with probably some ice, some water to pour on me. It's gonna get hot, like probably around 65 and sunny, which is gonna be a brutal awakening for a lot of people that have been training in the winter and cold months. Luckily, I've got access to a sauna at my rec center, so I've been hitting that up. Probably 2-3 times a week for 20 minutes after some workouts. So I'm gonna have her ready with new bottles, so I don't have to fill them up at the aid station. She's just gonna swap bottles. She's gonna have my gels ready to go. I'm doing 120 grams of carbs per hour with Science and Sport Beta Fuel gels that are 40 grams each. So having about 3 of those an hour. I have a few soft flasks from Hydro Pack that I can put them in, and they just flow a lot easier. You can put about 3 in the soft flask, so I don't have to rip the gel and deal with the garbage and monkey with my hands there and maybe trip on a rock and fall into a cactus. So anything to cut off any time at this race is literally of utmost importance, because everything's going so fast that if you stop for more than 5 minutes, you're kind of you've lost 20 places. It's a race where there's I think over 1,000 people on single track for the most part. So it's
so
gonna be
many.
a big conga line of people if you don't get out there and out front. Luckily, I signed up for the elite wave, the first wave, so I'm not sure if that's a bit smaller, if it's just with guys that intend to run a bit faster, but hopefully that one's not going to be as congested as some of the others behind. But yeah, man, it's a world of unknown because I haven't run a fast 100K, fast 50K. I've my only fast experiences with marathons really, so kind of trying to blend in what I've learned from marathoning and then the ultra running, and kind of it's like a combination. So there's some road marathon runners and road runners that have done well at this race, some that have gone and blown up. There's been 211, 212 marathoners that have failed at this race. But there's also people like me that are around, 235, 240 that can make a big splash even with guys like that. So it's going to be a mosh pit of talent and guys that are grinding it out. I'm excited to throw my name in the hat and see what happens and go after it. I'm going to leave it all out there, I think. Don't have another race on the calendar for technically until June. I'm probably going to put one on the calendar next month. We'll see. I'm thinking about doing the Antelope or the Buffalo Run 50 miler, which would, if I got first place there, which is another hypothetical, it would grant me access to the Bear 100, which is in September, following UTMB, which is something I'm already crewing / pacing for someone. But if I were to win, then I'd probably be able to convince them that I want to race it too.
Yeah,
but that's a whole other storyline that I'm thinking in my head about.
That's for after this weekend.
I know. This right now it's just Black Canyon and running fast, and just got a fresh new pair of my super shoes that I've been liking to wear. Went a half size down so they fit a little bit better. Especially with this race, there's parts where it's just pure rocks. It's just like football sized rocks where you're running on, and ankles are going everywhere, so you kind of want a good fit in your shoe. So I've kind of just taking in all the information I've heard and known about this race and kind of trying to apply it as best as I can to give myself the best chance to succeed here. And I know everyone else is doing that too. I've seen so many videos of my competitors in their heat training suits on the treadmills with saunas and like hot tubbing, and everyone's doing all the little things nowadays. So it's just a matter of kind of like who could execute the best, and who's gonna race, who's gonna be able to race. And in my past, I think my history, I've been able to race above my fitness level, which means that like I might like appear based off my workouts and what like my fitness looks to be based on what my pace are in my workouts. I tend to race a bit faster than that. I'm not sure what it is. It's probably the adrenaline, probably the race day magic. It's probably just like the carbo load hitting right and my glycogen stores being full for once and not being worn down. But I think I tend to show up when it matters most, and this is one of those times where like this is an opportunity to take and get your name out there and to not be a dark horse any longer. So we'll see what happens. And I think best case in the world would be like top 10 for me. That would be very respectable, especially with the field. That'd probably require a lot of the pro guys to have major mess ups, and that's okay. But top 20, I think, is realistic. If I like, it's realistic. It's going to be hard. But if I can stick it out and do all the things that I've like prepared for, then I think it's good to go.
Where can we be up to date? Is it something we'll just have to wait and see until the end? Or
no, this is a very well supported race from Aravaipa and Mountain Outpost. So there's live tracking on the Aravaipa website and Black Canyon's website. If you just look at the Black Canyon 100K, you can find the live tracking there. And then Mountain Outpost has a YouTube channel where they're going to be live streaming the entire thing.
Cool.
With on-course correspondents, people in the booth like Dylan Bowman, Corinne Malcolm. Like they're going to be in the booth talking about the race while it's going on. They're going to be checking in with people on the course, name dropping like people that are coming by. So I'll try to do. I don't know. I gotta figure out something to do that you'd know it's me. And I'll text you about it so that like if you were watching, like you know, like I'm gonna be wearing, as of now, I'm gonna be wearing a white singlet that's Hawks Running branded. I don't think my Rabbit gear is gonna get here in time. # Rabbit Elite Trail. So won't have it ready for this race, I don't think. I'm gonna be a white singlet, white hat, and then just like whatever gray or black half tights in my white shoes. So pretty much all white, staying as cool as possible in the heat. Might have bloody nipples because this thing is super sheer and thin. So I might have the red nips going, but yeah, ready to rock.
Well, no, you got to get out of here in 2 minutes. So
yep, ready to work at the local running store. Let's go.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Race starts Saturday or Friday?
It's Saturday at, I believe, Arizona time. It's 7 or 8 a.m. So Central time 8 or 9 a.m. I'm pretty sure.
Sweet.
Yeah. Saturday race. Sunday there's a 50K.
Okay. So. We'll be watching. I'm gonna get this uploaded as soon as we hop off here. So
let's go.
We'll get the people in the know of how they can check
you
out this weekend. Best of luck. I'm sure I'll talk to you before. I'll shoot you a text. I don't want to mess with the vibes going into the race, but best of luck, dude. I'm so excited to watch you. I'm going to be up north with Lucy this weekend. We'll be checking in via the live stream. So,
yes, sir. Appreciate it, dude. It was fun to track you along the course on Arrowhead, even though it was just like a little dot. It was nice to see like you move.
All right, he's still alive.
Senior average pace. Like this guy, he's like a cockroach. He won't go down. Like, yeah.
All right, dude.
All righty. Well, peace. Nice. Thanks,
nice.
Dude. That was good. That was good timing. Perfect.
Yep.
All right, I gotta bounce.
Yep. Peace.